In 1932, a mother in Pittsburgh fed a family of 5 3 full meals a day for 70 cents a week. That is 10 cents per day, not $10, 10 cents. She did not use government assistance. She did not rely on charity. She walked into a butcher shop with a dime and walked out with enough food to nourish her household until the sun came up again. Today, a single coffee costs more than she spent to keep her family alive. The difference is not inflation alone. It is not scarcity. It is the complete erasure of a food system that modern America has buried so deep most people do not even know it existed. What your great-grandmother knew about stretching a dollar, finding nutrition in what we now throw away, and turning scraps into sustenance is knowledge that could cut your grocery bill in half starting this week. Stay with me, because what I am about to reveal about organ meats and the Depression-era secret that turns them into the cheapest superfood on earth will completely change how you think about what belongs on your plate. We begin with something most people have never heard of. In the early 1930s, there was a cut of meat so cheap that butchers practically gave it away. Beef liver. A pound of it cost 3 cents, sometimes less. If you showed up at the right time, when the butcher was closing and had liver left over, he would hand it to you for free rather than let it spoil. Housewives built entire weekly meal plans around it. They knew that liver was not just cheap, it was the most nutrient-dense food you could buy. Ounce for ounce, it contained more iron than any vegetable, more vitamin A than carrots, more B vitamins than any grain. One serving of liver gave a child the nutritional equivalent of what today costs $30 in supplements. The preparation was simple. Slice it thin. Soak it in milk for an hour to draw out the bitterness. Dredge it in flour mixed with salt and pepper. Fry it in lard with onions until it was just barely cooked. Through. The whole process took 15 minutes. The result was a meal that kept a family strong through winters when there was no other source of protein. Mothers learned to serve it twice a week, sometimes 3 times. Children grew up with it and did not complain because there was nothing else and because it tasted good when prepared right. It was fuel. It was survival. It was free nutrition hiding in plain sight. Today, liver has been so thoroughly demonized that most Americans have never tasted it. The average person believes it is toxic, that it stores toxins from the animal, that it is dangerous to eat. This is backwards. The liver filters toxins, but does not store them. It stores vitamins. It is one of the cleanest parts of the animal. But modern food marketing has convinced an entire population to fear it while spending hundreds of dollars a month on multivitamins that contain synthetic versions of what liver offers in its whole, natural form. Grass-fed beef liver today costs about $6 a pound. That is more expensive than it was, but still cheaper than almost any other protein. A single pound provides enough nutrients to replace a month's worth of supplements. Researchers at Johns Hopkins found that vitamin A from animal sources like liver is absorbed up to 12 times more efficiently than vitamin A from plant sources. If you want to start eating like a Depression-era family, buy 1 pound of liver this week. Find a local butcher if you can, because they often sell it cheaper than grocery stores. Soak it in whole milk for 1 hour. Pat it dry. Season it with salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Fry it in butter or lard over medium heat for 2 minutes per side. Serve it with onions and potatoes. Your total cost for a meal that feeds 4 people will be under $8. The second lesson goes even deeper into what the butcher gave away for almost nothing. Bones. In 1933, soup bones were free. Not cheap, free. A housewife would walk into the butcher shop and ask for bones, and he would fill a bag with beef knuckles, marrow bones, and chicken carcasses and hand it to her with a smile. He had no use for them. They were waste. She took them home and turned them into the foundation of her family's diet for the entire week. Bone broth. It simmered on the stove for 24 hours, sometimes longer, extracting every molecule of collagen, gelatin, calcium, magnesium, and amino acids from the bones. The result was a rich, golden liquid that served as the base for every soup, every stew, every pot of beans. It was not a trendy health food. It was survival. The nutritional profile of bone broth is something modern science is only now beginning to understand. The gelatin in bone broth heals the gut lining, reduces inflammation, supports joint health, and improves skin elasticity. The collagen provides the building blocks for connective tissue throughout the entire body. The minerals are in a form that the body absorbs easily. Depression-era mothers did not know the biochemistry, but they knew the results. Children who ate bone broth regularly had stronger bones, healthier skin, and better digestion. Today, bone broth is sold in grocery stores for $8 to $12 per quart. Companies market it as a luxury health product. Celebrities promote it. Nutritionists prescribe it, but you do not need to buy it. You can make it the same way your great-grandmother did, and it will cost you almost nothing. Ask your butcher for soup bones. Most butchers still have them. Many will give them to you for free or charge $1 per pound. If you buy a whole chicken, save the carcass after you eat the meat. Throw the bones in a stock pot or slow cooker with water, a splash of vinegar to help extract the minerals, and let it simmer for 12 to 24 hours. Strain it. Store it in jars in the refrigerator or freezer. One batch from $5 worth of bones will give you 2 gallons of broth that would cost you over $60 if you bought it pre-made. Now stay with me here because this is where it gets really interesting. Number 4 takes us into the pantry, into the one ingredient that Depression-era cooks relied on more than any other, and it is the same ingredient that modern nutrition advice has been telling you to avoid for 50 years. Lard. In the 1930s, lard was not a choice. It was the only cooking fat most families could afford. A pound of it cost 5 cents and lasted weeks. It came from rendering pork fat, which was a byproduct of butchering. Nothing was wasted. The fat was cut into small pieces, melted slowly over low heat, strained, and stored in jars. It was used for frying, baking, greasing pans, and preserving food. Every biscuit, every pie crust, every fried potato was made with lard. It was cheap, shelf-stable, and it made food taste better than anything else. Lard is about 50% monounsaturated fat, the same type of fat found in olive oil. It contains no trans fats when it is traditionally rendered. It has a high smoke point, which means it does not break down and form harmful compounds when heated, unlike many vegetable oils. It is rich in vitamin D, especially if it comes from pasture-raised pigs. Depression-era families were getting vitamin D from their cooking fat while spending almost nothing. Today, we are told to avoid animal fats and use vegetable oils instead: canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil. These oils did not exist in the 1930s. They were industrially created in the mid-20th century and marketed as healthier alternatives. But research is now showing that these oils are highly unstable, prone to oxidation, and linked to inflammation and metabolic disease. A study published in the British Medical Journal found that replacing animal fats with vegetable oils did not reduce heart disease and may have increased mortality. You can buy lard today for about $4 a pound, or you can render it yourself if you have access to pork fat. Many butchers sell pork fat for under $2 a pound or give it away. Cut it into small chunks, place it in a slow cooker or heavy pot on low heat, and let it melt for several hours. Strain out the cracklings and pour the liquid fat into jars. It will solidify as it cools. Use it for frying eggs, roasting vegetables, making biscuits, or any recipe that calls for oil or butter. The flavor is mild and clean, not greasy or porky like most people assume. Your cost per use is pennies. Before we continue, if this is changing how you think about food and what your family ate to survive, smash that like button and subscribe right now. The information ahead is even more important, and you do not want to miss it. The fourth method is about bread, but not the bread you buy in a plastic bag at the grocery store. During the Depression, bread was the backbone of every meal, not because it was healthy in the way we think of whole grains today, but because it was the cheapest source of calories available. A 5-pound sack of flour cost 10 cents and could produce 8 to 10 loaves of bread. Housewives baked bread twice a week, sometimes more. The process was physical. Kneading dough by hand for 10 minutes built arm strength. The heat from the oven warmed the house. The smell brought the family together. A single loaf, served with lard or butter and a sprinkle of salt, could feed a family for an entire day. But the bread itself was different. It was made from flour, water, salt, and yeast. No preservatives, no dough conditioners, no added sugars or seed oils. It went stale within 2 days, which meant it had to be eaten fresh or repurposed. Stale bread was never thrown away. It was turned into bread pudding, soaked in milk and eggs, and baked into a custard. It was torn into pieces and fried in lard to make croutons. It was dried completely and ground into breadcrumbs for coating meats or stretching meatloaf. Nothing was wasted because waste meant hunger. The cost comparison is staggering. A loaf of decent bread today costs $4 to $6. A 5-pound bag of flour costs $3 and makes 10 loaves. That is 30 cents per loaf. The time investment is about 20 minutes of active work and 3 hours of rising and baking. The result is fresher, healthier, and costs 90% less than store-bought. Bread made at home contains no preservatives, which means it forces you to eat it within a few days or repurpose it. This creates a natural rhythm of consumption that prevents waste. If you have never baked bread, start with the simplest recipe. Mix 3 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 packet of yeast, and 1 1/4 cups of warm water. Knead it for 8 minutes. Let it rise for an hour. Shape it into a loaf. Let it rise again for 30 minutes. Bake it at 375 degrees for 30 minutes. That is it. Your first loaf might not be perfect, but it will be edible and cheap. The more you do it, the better you will get. Within a month, you will have a rhythm. And now we arrive at number 1. The single most important food strategy that Depression-era families used to survive, and it is the one that modern America has completely abandoned: buying whole animals and using every single part. In the 1930s, if you had a little bit of land, you raised a pig or a few chickens. If you lived in the city, you bought a whole chicken for 25 cents, not pieces, not breasts, the whole bird. You roasted it for Sunday dinner. You picked the meat off the bones for Monday's chicken salad. You simmered the carcass for Tuesday's soup. You used the fat for frying Wednesday's potatoes. By the time that one chicken was fully utilized, it had provided 4 or 5 meals for a family of 5. The cost per meal was under 5 cents. Today, we buy chicken breasts for $8 a pound and throw away the bones, the skin, the fat, the organs. We have been trained to see only the white meat as valuable. Everything else is treated as waste, but that waste is where the nutrition lives. The skin contains collagen and healthy fats. The bones make broth. The liver and heart are nutrient-dense. The feet, if you can find them, make the richest broth of all. A whole chicken today costs about $10 to $12. That same chicken, if used the way a Depression-era cook would use it, provides 8 to 10 meals. Roast it whole. Eat the meat for 2 meals. Make broth from the carcass. Use the broth for soup with vegetables and rice. Your cost per meal drops to about $1 per person, compared to the $6 or $7 per person you would spend buying pre-cut chicken breasts and canned broth separately. The principle extends beyond chicken: buying whole fish instead of fillets, buying pork shoulder instead of pork chops, buying beef chuck roast instead of ground beef. Whole cuts are always cheaper per pound, and they force you to learn techniques that maximize value. Slow cooking tough cuts until they are tender, rendering fat, making stock. These are not complicated skills. They are simple, repetitive tasks that Depression-era families did without thinking because survival required it. Start small. This week, buy 1 whole chicken, roast it for dinner. The next day, strip the remaining meat for sandwiches or salad. Throw the carcass in a pot with water and simmer it overnight. Use that broth for soup later in the week. Track what you spend versus what you would have spent buying chicken breasts and canned broth separately. You will see the difference immediately. What your great-grandparents knew, and what we have spent the last 70 years forgetting, is that wealth is not about how much you earn. It is about how much you keep. Depression-era families survived on 10 cents a day not because they were desperate, but because they understood value in a way we no longer do. They knew that the organs were more nutritious than the muscle. They knew that bones were medicine. They knew that fat was fuel. They knew that waste was a choice, not a necessity. Every single strategy in this video is still available to you right now, today, for less money than you spent on coffee this morning. The cheapest foods, when chosen correctly and prepared with knowledge, are the most nourishing. You do not need more income. You need the information that your great-grandmother carried in her hands every single day. You can start tomorrow. Walk into a butcher shop and ask for liver, for bones, for fat. Go to the grocery store and buy a whole chicken, a bag of flour, a pound of dried beans. Spend $15 and turn it into a week of meals. Learn one technique at a time. Render lard, bake bread, make broth. Each one you master is a step toward the kind of food security that no economic collapse can touch. This is not about going backwards. It is about reclaiming what was stolen from you by convenience and repackaged as progress. I want to hear from you. What did your grandparents or great-grandparents do to stretch a dollar during hard times? What recipes or techniques were passed down in your family? Drop your stories in the comments. Let us rebuild this knowledge together, one family memory at a time. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.